Good evening. You're watching Views at 7 with Bahnur Qureshi. Today we'll discuss about the series of developments that are placing Pakistan at the center of regional diplomacy, international law and obviously the national security. We'll start with the current situation of Pakistan with India, where we have seen that the debates related to diplomacy and legality of Indus Water Treaty is actually surrounded by the current situation, where we have seen that India has held the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance following the Pahalgam attack, and it is actually raising questions on the legality of this treaty, on the legality of international law, on the international community and international organizations. We'll try to unfold different aspects related to it. We'll start with the obviously the relations of Pakistan and India at the verge, because we have seen that following Pahalgam attack in 2025, India holds the Treaty of Indus Water in abeyance, and we have seen the violations we have been covering, and we have been actually providing with the dossiers and the witnesses that how India is violating this treaty unilaterally. So tonight's in program Views at 7 will try to unfold the legality of it, the legal side of it, and especially the diplomatic side of it. To discuss about that, we are joined by Dr. Hassan Abbas, who is international water resource expert and hydrologist. Dr. Hassan, welcome to the show. What do you think that under the Vienna Convention of Law of Treaties, can a party unilaterally withdraw from a treaty that includes more than one parties, and actually it is not only about the international law, it is impacting the livelihood of millions of people in the region?
Yeah, actually, as far as Vienna Convention and international treaties is concerned, the world is very clear about it. Vienna Convention, Article 69, for example, it stipulates that how international treaties are to be honored, and if there is any dispute, how it is to be resolved and stuff. So that is the outer shell of the treaty. When we just look this whole thing as an international treaty between two countries, and one of the countries is now not following the treaty, it is violating the treaty. So that is where we can go to International Court of Justice and ask for and level charges against the country which is violating the treaty. Within the treaty, there are mechanisms to resolve disputes, raise questions, raise differences, and resolve disputes. And this is a three-tier formula within the treaty. So we have already exhausted that option. We went to the International Court of Arbitration, which is the third tier of this dispute resolution within the treaty, and we got a decision in our favor already that India is violating the treaty. So whatever they have done is not allowed by any international law or by the provisions of the treaty. So if the treaty cannot be unilaterally unfollowed, it cannot be unilaterally followed. And that gives Pakistan an option to go beyond just the restoration of the treaty and forcing India to come back and start following the treaty. Because as far as international law is concerned, we have to go beyond just the court of arbitration. There are other forums that we must also now start following. One of the things we can do still with the court of arbitration, that if India is not following the treaty, Pakistan can also not follow the treaty unilaterally. And that would harm India more than India's so-called suspension of the treaty is harming us. Yes.
That's very important, Dr. Hassan Abbas. But you have mentioned that within the treaty there are clauses that how both parties can resolve their disputes, and India did that following the attack of Pahalgam. What do you think, that is security concern enough for violating, or is it actually legally justifiable by India to unilaterally put this treaty in abeyance? Because if it is a security concern, there must be some evidences as well, and we have been asking for the evidences, but they couldn't provide any evidence to Pakistan, to the world. So what needs to be done in this regard, because they are actually putting security concern on the front line, and under that umbrella of security concern they are just holding back this treaty?
Okay, this is where India is doing the wrong thing. And secondly, court of arbitration, I think, cannot look beyond what is written within the lines of the treaty. So the Court of Arbitration has already very clearly stipulated and given a decision that they are not following the treaty. Now, when India says that security concerns and all those things which they are saying, and we can contest that there are no security concerns, we can contest that Pahalgam was a false flag operation. We can contest that it has not been investigated at any forum. So now the next forum is not Court of Arbitration. Court of Arbitration, we have already won our case. We should now go to the International Court of Justice and level this allegation against India that they are violating an international covenant, and that is where they should be tried for. And the next forum, I think it should be International Court of Justice. It is beyond the purview of the Court of Arbitration. Yes.
All right. So, what do you think about it, considering the current situation of India? If one state refuses to participate in the arbitration process under the already established treaty, so what do you think that how would it impact or affect the legitimacy of that international law and Vienna Convention of treaties? How would it impact, and how would it raise actually questions regarding the legitimacy of that law?
Okay, those laws are legitimate, but there is no mechanism which exists internationally to enforce the decisions of these international laws, and it is obligatory for the nations to follow that law. And it is customary and it is a moral obligation that the nations, once they sign a treaty, they honor it and they follow it. If a nation doesn't do that, that nation simply would be labeled as a rogue state, a terrorist state, or a state which is not cooperating or which is not, upholding the laws and norms and customs and conventions of a civilized world. And these days, no country can live in isolation. Every country is dependent on every other country. This is how the global mind, this is how the global society, this is how the whole planet Earth has changed and transforming into a global village. So if we win a case against them in any of the legal forums, like we have already won one case in the Court of Arbitration, then it is very difficult for India to go into more treaties, more conventions with the other countries, like with doing trade with the other countries, signing more pacts with the other countries, because then India would be labeled as a country which unilaterally gets out of these treaties, which doesn't honor the laws. Then they lose their credibility internationally. And after winning the case, there is no mechanism to enforce the decisions on India, but then we have a moral high ground in diplomatic circles and international circles, and everywhere we can refer to that, and India would have nowhere to hide. So that is the kind of diplomacy that we should now embark on. Yes.
All right, all right. So, Dr. Hassan, don't you think that after Kashmir, this Indus Water Treaty has become a bone of contention between India and Pakistan? And considering the current situation, has this treaty, the Indus Water Treaty, purely shifted from the technical water sharing treaty to instrument, a geopolitical instrument between the relationship of India and Pakistan?
To some extent, yes. But I think this has given us a grand opportunity to fix the ills this treaty has brought upon us. I mean, if you look at the history, this is a water sharing treaty. Now, this water sharing treaty is kind of in conflict with current global mind. For example, one of the latest examples of the emerging global mind are the Berlin Rules of 2024. There are at least 10 to 15 articles of the Berlin Rules which are in direct conflict with the provisions in this treaty. For example, the treaty allows India to pollute our rivers. Now, that is unprecedented in any other treaty in the world. And that pollution that we are receiving is not trivial. there had been very grave consequences on environmental health, on human rights violations, and on the health and well-being of our children who are exposed to that pollution. So we have now a chance to actually ask the Court of Arbitration that we are no more interested in this treaty, because we must know that this treaty does not protect us anymore. And it did not protect us. It actually gave protections to India where they were violating international laws like pollution. They shut down three rivers on a pretext that they will green Rajasthan. Now, after 66 years, the Rajasthan is still 99% desert, despite India spending billions of dollars in that area. So now the satellite images and that ground of 4 million acres is available in order to launch another case against India, that they should now let those rivers flow back to Pakistan that they took from us in 1960. So whatever our weaknesses were in 1960 when we signed this treaty are not there now. And it is our chance to reclaim those rivers, and it is our chance to let that pollution stop, which treaty permits. And this is kind of a counterattack. It is not that we should just stay defensive and try to protect ourselves and give all the offensive initiatives to India. No, now we should launch a counteroffensive. We should ask our rivers back, because whatever the reason they took those rivers, that reason has not been met by them. They could not actually meet it despite investing in Rajasthan. Similarly,
Means that we have a
no.
lot of venues for raising this concern in the international institutions. But Dr. Hassan, such kind of treaties or such kind of violations related to the treaties actually set a precedent for the future issues, for the future cases. So how would the violations related to this treaty would impact the future transboundary water sharing agreements across Asia?
Okay, we are not violating this treaty. India is violating it. And we will teach India a lesson that when you violate a treaty, it is not us who will be harmed, it is you who will be harmed. It is you who will have to return those rivers, and it is you who will have to fix the pollution that you are dumping in our rivers. So we are not going to lose. And this will set again a precedent that a country which at a certain point in time tricked us or lured us or forced us to sign a very bad treaty, there is always a time which can turn the things around. And whatever India got against the international norms and laws at that time can now be reversed, and we can reclaim our lost rights, because lower riparians have the rights. This treaty is so strange. It divided rivers in two parts, eastern rivers and western rivers. On the western rivers, although they are allotted to Pakistan, but all the international provisions of that time were given to the upper riparian. They could use the waters of the western rivers for all the for their domestic use, for their irrigation use, for their hydropower use. And but within the same treaty, the rights of the lower riparian on the eastern rivers were completely forfeited. So why we did that? Because we were weak. Why we did that? Because we didn't understand. But today the things are different. We are neither weak nor we are at a position when we don't understand it. So we should.
All right, your point is well taken, Dr. Hassan Abbas. Actually, India is linking the water governance with the political and the military dispute. Thank you so much for joining in. We were joined by international water resource expert and hydrologist Dr. Hassan Abbas, and we were just discussing about the current situation of violations of Indus Water Treaty by India, because we have seen that it is not only impacting the agriculture, it is not only impacting the economy, but it is actually impacting the climate, the environment, not only for Pakistan, but for the world, for the region as well. And actually, we were just discussing and unfolding different aspects of this violations, because such kind of issues are actually setting a precedent for the future issues, are setting a precedent for the future transboundary water sharing. And obviously it would impact the future agreements of transboundary water sharing across Asia. As we have seen, there are a lot of countries across the world that are having transboundary water sharing agreement, be it US or Canada, be it the European countries, but this kind of violations has never been seen anywhere. So now moving